You are watching Omnis Protocol, and I am Charles, also known as Omnis. This week, this is the Star Wars Shatterpoint Battle Report with me doing commentary as per usual. And I got kind of an old school matchup for you all to watch. This has Ryan playing Anakin and Obi-Wan. You might recognize this list because we just did a list focus episode on it. If you're watching the battle reports and you want to check out some like shorter form content that's focused on lists, you should check out those. And I just did one about this list with this exact player. And then facing off against Donovan, his son, who is playing Vader Jedi Hunter, or the Vader 1 as we commonly call him, with Grand Inquisitor. So this is a matchup we probably saw a fair amount back in the day when, around the time that Star Wars Shatterpoint came out, or like a few months after. Just a very interesting matchup overall where, there's just, you've got two extremely offensive primaries with Anakin and Vader kind of dueling to see, who is the best Vader. But let's talk about the list for just a moment. So Anakin has Fixer and Arfs. Obi-Wan has Rex and the Commandos. The Commandos are really interesting here because they have scale, so they interact really interestingly with Anakin's identity and Obi-Wan's identity. And then just two, the rest of the list is just really, really solid. So kind of a lot of kind of Republic good stuff, in a lot of ways. And then on the Imperial side, you have Darth Vader, Jedi Hunter, with Stormtrooper Sergeant, which is very common with him, and then the Dark Troopers. Dark Troopers have coordinated fire strain, which can also help Vader hit key breakpoint numbers, so that's really great. And then you have Inquisitor with Third Sister and Fifth Brother. Also not a terribly uncommon combination for Grand Inquisitor. Third Sister has gotten really good since her, kind of glow up in the errata earlier this year, and Fifth Brother has always been a standard, and him being able to expose things for Vader or Grand Inquisitor or Reva can all be a big deal as well. So overall, just kind of in a lot of ways, outside of Fixer, this is just classic, old school, good stuff in a lot of ways. So I'm really excited to see how this plays out. I feel like there's, could be a little bit of riding the lightning with the dice between Vader and Anakin. So we'll just have to see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and start the video now. The mission for this one is Sabotage. So we are doing a Sabotage showdown. It looks like Republic won priority. So this is going to be interesting. I'd maybe prefer shifting priorities with the Republic list, but I think Sabotage Showdown is an absolutely solid take here. So it looks like he's elected to spend a force to shuffle the Shatterpoint back in. But before you shuffle it in, you just do take the top card. That was something I did wrong at the very beginning where I was shuffling the Shatterpoint card in before I was doing the, before I was grabbing the next card. So sometimes you got the Shatterpoint again. But that is not the way that works. And so Republic Commandos are probably not his optimal grab here. They are someone that because they lack shoves, sometimes all they do is just be hunkered and be on points and try to be difficult to pull off. But they're also just right across from Vader, right? And so there's certainly a concern that you could end up with, you just put them up and then they just die. And I think there would definitely be an element of might prefer to be putting up the ARFs or something, just be able to create a situation where you're not giving Vader just an immediate, obvious kill. Now, he could elect to reserve him. I don't think he wants to. You definitely don't want to get stuck with an Anakin activation to start things off. And so he's electing to basically just not spend force, have them hunker, or he has they have two hunkers, but there hasn't been another force spent. So I don't know if it was accidentally putting on an extra hunker or just forgetting to spend for the defensive maneuver. But I like the logic here to not immediately feed them to Vader when it's not going to get you any points. And Donovan immediately reveals Darth Vader Jedi Hunter. So if he had sent them to the middle, they would almost certainly just be dead. And it would be a very easy activation for Donovan here. Donovan is going to elect to reserve Darth Vader and then pulls Shatterpoint. This is, I mean, to be entirely honest, as much as I like to be very rarely reserved, I think there is a genuine consideration here where you take the next card. I think because you can take really any point, that there, I'm just not sure you want the Shatterpoint in this exact moment. And with that list's ability to refresh force and Stormtrooper Sergeant being a 0 force activation, I would seriously consider reserving the Shatterpoint here, which I know might sound a little odd coming from me. I generally don't advocate for reserving, but I do think here, I know it's not called reserving when it's putting the Shatterpoint card back in, but I just think with Vader already in reserve, I would be pretty happy with, any other grab here. So it does look like he's at least in the deliberation of who to activate with this. I'd be trying to think about if there was a good way to try to take 2 points. And so I'd be looking at, say, Stormtrooper Sergeant, does he have a play where he could hunker and advance and at least be on that point on the left side of your screen and potentially move up Fifth Brother? But Fifth Brother's kind of on the inside. This is one where the deployment is a pretty big deal. I think if Fifth Brother had switched spots with Reva, then there's a world where that Stormtrooper Sergeant play could start you off scoring 4. So just a very subtle deployment play there. So looks like he's going to go ahead and take the Dark Troopers and wants to see if he can take both points, which seems fairly reasonable. So basically he spent a force to jump, and now they're hunkering, and this does allow him to lock in the play. Now, the downside here is it kind of exactly what we were talking about with the commandos. If the next pull is Anakin, there's a chance that he just then immediately loses the Dark Troopers before their card has even come up. But it allows him to start off scoring 4. So overall, I think if you're not going to reserve the Shatterpoint, I think that is a totally reasonable play. All right, looks like they might have forgotten to move the struggle tracker at the moment, but I'm sure they will catch that. So Ryan has revealed Rex as his next card. He is going to go ahead and activate him. Looks like he's dashing Anakin up so that Anakin can be a little bit closer to the action, and he'll be kind of on that back point and hunkered. And especially in Sabotage, if you have not played this mission a ton, it is more important than probably any other mission to be still maintaining control of your back point. Or back points, plural. All right, so here Rex is now dashing himself. Taking a shot at that Dark Trooper on the left objective on your screen. Dark Trooper with a terrible defense roll. 1 block with, 2 bonus dice. That is a rough roll. And not an insane roll for Rex, since it's just a lot of expertise. And it looks like it's pretty much just crits, so the bad block roll doesn't actually matter a ton here. All right, so it's just going to be basically 2 shoves. So despite it being like a totally bad defense roll, it was a situation where that just didn't really matter. So if you're going to get that out of the way, get it out of the way. So I fully suspect here he's probably just going to, shove himself further forward. Here, what I like about what Ryan is considering is, since he has the Dark Trooper off the point, he's wondering if he leaves Rex not on top of the objective to try to make it so that if Vader wants to come kill him, that he is not going to be on the right level, so it's easier to take the point back from to make it easier to take back from Vader, which the first time someone did this against me when I was playing Vader, I was very frustrated and didn't like it. So it's definitely something I've tried to put in my toolbox since. So there's still a move action left, but he might just elect to hunker. Or no, I guess it must be that Rex has taken his move action already and is now deciding if he's in a defensive maneuver because there's no hunker token on him. We'll see. It might just be a need to correct the board state. So he is electing to be under it. And here they're catching that Donovan should have already scored. So he had scored 4, and then Ryan scores 3. So it ends on Donovan's 1, which gives a momentum to Ryan. And so now Rex is kind of obfuscated under the terrain, but he is controlling that objective, at least at the moment. And now we've got Vader most likely activating and going after Rex. Rex has a hunger token, so he'd at least get to roll 6 dice in melee against Vader because of Obi-Wan. There's always Vader might be one of the more reliable murderers in Star Wars Shatterpoint, but the dice have to say yes. And if you don't kill Rex, Rex will, drop the hunker and move on to the objective and retain control of it. You will have the benefit of coordinated fire strain, it looks like, at the very least. So here is just one of the, primaries being just a little closer to the edge of the table can be, you're like, well, where can I get an ingress point or something to just try to gain a little bit of extra movement to make sure you get close enough and kind of get into the position that you want. So here they were asking me a question. Oh, I think this was a line of sight question because of where Rex is at, kind of underneath that gantry. There was kind of some consideration about like where can Vader go and potentially have line of sight. And so, and we were just kind of talking it through. You have to be within range 2 to be engaged, and you have to have line of sight. So Donovan is electing to activate Vader here. Vader is advancing, it looks like, and hitting an ingress point. Oh. I think Donovan felt like he nudged Vader at the end of the movement, and because this was kind of precision, so he was trying to like reset and go back. All right. So now Vader is spending for his move and get additional damage. Oh, it looks like, sorry, I didn't catch. Rex is not under the gantry. He's on the other side of that terrain. You can see him sticking out just a little bit. So here we're discussing, like, yeah, there probably was a world where you could block line of sight to Rex if he had stayed a little bit further back. Yeah. 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 Donovan was just like, hey, before you roll, I am declaring coordinated fire. All right, so it looks like 3 blocks from Rex, totally normal. So it looks like Vader's going to go 4 down, plus 2 damage, plus strain. So that is going to be a deaderized Rex. He was about to resolve a shove, and he's like, he is steadfast because he does retain the hunker, so no shove there. So Vader gets to heal 1 and refresh a force because of Grand Inquisitor, but is not on the correct objective level. All right. Vader's going to score 4 again. Now there's a General Obi. I think what's going on here is definitely Ryan is feeling like he needs a big swing potential here. So he's electing to reserve Obi, which gives him a jump. And then he pulls Arfs, which is totally okay. But I think he's definitely concerned if he just scores 3 here that he is just not going to win this struggle. So I think he's definitely eyeing, like, how can he score 4 points? Which I'm not sure. I mean, I guess if he could find a way to get to the back left point, or, on your screen, it's kind of the top left objective that has nobody on that particular level. But that seems unlikely to me. So maybe the best play here is just to see if he can shove the Dark Trooper off the point. Doesn't look like he's even trying to go for that left side objective. I think he's just erring on the side of maybe things will be okay if he just scores 1. So the ARFs advance, end within 3 of Fixer, so they get a hunker token. Yeah. And so here he's actually going to elect to just not shoot at the Dark Trooper, and just get both of them on the point. And so he doesn't have to spend for defensive maneuver, but still, again, it's going to score the point and have 2 hunkers and save a force, which I think makes a lot of sense there. You potentially want big force swings with Anakin, and you have some other force needed for, you probably Obi's going to want to spend a force. So I like that kind of cautious force expenditure there. All right, so Dark Trooper flip here. The hard part about this is I'm not sure a Dark Trooper activation is going to be able to score him 4 points. So, because both of the back points are kind of stacked at the moment, You know, you've got one objective with a commando in Obi, and then the other objective has a commando in Anakin, and most of them are hunkered. So the idea of taking those back points is actually really difficult here. And I think that just goes to show like how strong that opening play was for Ryan, that reinforcing your back points on Sabotage is huge. It kind of creates a situation where you're really truly fighting over 4 objectives, and the 2 that are not being fought over, you control already. I like Donovan's play here to reserve Dark Troopers, but unfortunately, he got basically the worst possible of the remaining cards. If he had gotten Fifth Brother or Reva or Grand Inquisitor, all of those would have been significantly better. And this, again, we're coming back to, man, if Fifth Brother had been deployed just a little bit closer to that side objective, then this play would become very strong. And where like Fifth Brother could just walk onto that point, take it, and Stormtrooper Sergeant could be reinforcing one of these points on the side. And so this is coming back to like, you know, while one of the things I praise about Shatterpoint in general is that it is pretty friendly in general to, you know, deployment mistakes. But you're seeing here, both Ryan and Donovan are very strong players. And it is easily something where a small deployment error, while not huge, when combined with the order deck, it could kind of backfire on Donovan here. So just a small thing to keep in mind. I don't find that like deployment errors are a huge factor in the vast majority of games, but already watching this right here, I feel like he could have deployed the Grand Inquisitor maybe just like 2, 3, 4 millimeters towards the right side of the map, if from your perspective, and still had Reva on the point, probably still had Fifth Brother on the point, and Fifth Brother could have been walking distance to that middle objective, which would be huge in taking control of this matchup. So here, Ryan is considering, like, is this an Obi activation? He has retained control of the objective on the other side. He's now wondering, because there's 2 bodies on that left objective because they moved the Dark Troopers, that there is an interesting play potential for Obi-Wan to go after the back point, because he's already jumped forward once. He's electing, though, to not activate Obi, and he has pulled Fixer. So Fixer is a solid activation. You know, this is not a full Delta Squad list, so it's not as critical to be protecting Fixer. But, I mean, you certainly won't mind getting him up, adding some dice, having a tiebreaker that can be moved around by Anakin or by Rex. All these things are valuable. But where to send him? So it looks like he dashed himself. Definitely, if he was in range to shoot at Fifth, or shoot at the Dark Trooper. But it didn't look like he was quite in range to take a shot at the Dark Trooper. So Looks like he's going to try to get maybe to the back point, or at least be in range to be moved to the back point. So it looks like he's now taking a shot at the Dark Trooper on the left side. Decent block for the Dark Trooper. I think that's 4 blocks. Looks like 2 crits, 2 hits after expertise. Three damage and a shove, so it'll be reduced to 2. Oh, it does look like there was enough to get a wound there. So I don't know if I misheard the amount of damage. Because he did score 2 momentum, 1 for it staying on Donovan's side, and 1 for a wound. So Donovan has pulled Fifth Brother, which is going to be definitely taking that point in the back. Or not back, but the right-hand side. So here, I like what Donovan's considering is just like if he's going to make an attack on an ARF trooper, or it looks like he's just repulsing. But I think he also would like to avoid repulsing an ARF trooper so they end up on another point, which he was able to do. That's something that when I've made that mistake in the past and I've shoved somebody onto a different objective, I've been very annoyed by it later on. And is smart there. He elected to not make an attack as he didn't want to potentially give the ability for them to drop hunkers and move to a position where Fifth Brother was not going to be able to repulse them off the point. I'm always impressed by Donovan's ability to like be playing a list that feels like it's being made by someone who wants to be extremely offensive, but will definitely just make the, displacement play, right? And focus on just how to score points most effectively and try not to give his opponent an out. All right, Donovan being 1 point away from winning the first struggle. Let's see. So Ryan's got to consider, like, is it an Obi turn or is he flipping the next card? He might need an Anakin play, like if he's trying to come back in this particular struggle. And he pulls Shatterpoint. And it looks like he's doing Rex. How many points can Rex take at the moment? So he's dashing Fixture onto the back point. So that is immediately going to mean he's scoring 3. There's no revenge triggers, and I don't think any defensive movement really. I mean, Grand Inquisitor might have some defensive movement far down his tree, but he's not getting attacked. Let's see, and he's kind of just counting his force at the moment to make sure he has force for like all the other key turns. Yeah, I like this line of play a lot here, where essentially he seems like he's going to climb up. He wants to make sure that one shove will get the Stormtrooper Sergeant off the point, and let's see. Oh, because he moved and ended within range of Fixer, he gets a hunker token automatically. That confused me for just a moment. Looks like 2 blocks, expertise, 2 fails on Donovan's side. Sounds like it's going to go 3 down. He's making sure he doesn't resolve the first shove in a way where he's not going to be able to resolve the second one, because there are models on the ground kind of surrounding this objective, and so those can start blocking landing zones, which can stop models from getting shoved. So here we're seeing the very clean resolution of resolving the first shove, then shoving Rex to the best spot for the best angle for the follow-up shove. All right, that's a score 4 for Ryan. I think he's probably feeling great about that overall. But also, I mean, of cards left in the deck, right, it's just Anakin. It was just Anakin, Rex, Shatterpoint. So definitely seemed like a good moment to keep drawing cards. All right, so now Donovan is deliberating, like, is this bring back the Dark Troopers? But the problem is Fixer and Rex, both with hunker tokens, starts getting very complicating for him. And he has already used Shatterpoint and already used Vader, which are his best plays to get kills there. And so I think Donovan is realizing that even though he was just a hair away from winning the first struggle, he now has a very considerable problem. And he's done Fifth Brother, which is also his best potential for big flips there. So, all right. So he has elected to pull the next card, which is Grand Inquisitor. Yeah, with no displacement left. This is definitely an interesting one where when you're running this particular Inquisitor package, as much as I do like Third Sister, I'm always in consideration of, like, do I want something like Django in this list? Because Fifth Brother and Grand Inquisitor both share an arrow with him. Even though he can't get Vader dice, there's a world where just having another displacement option in the list can be huge. But Reva's pretty solid. All right. So looks like Grand Inquisitor is dashing Reva forward and then gives her the dash to himself. Now he is hunkering. All right. It looks like he maybe is just planning for the next struggle where he doesn't feel like he could take a point, so he wants Grand Inquisitor on the middle, which I certainly get the logic there. That makes sense to me. I did not feel like he had a great play, but I'm not sure he had a great play with his deck at that point. But that's just that is certainly like a sad feeling when 2 different turns you ended one away from winning, and now you're like, wait a second. Am I not going to win this struggle now? All right. So here Ryan is trying to deliberate, is there a play to score 5? Or is he just going to focus on getting a kill? So currently it is at 4. So if he scores 4 points, it goes to 0. So scoring 5 is a huge deal here. But Anakin killing a primary can also result in a score of 5. Now, is there any play besides Anakin? He has Reva on that back point. Man, if so here what we see, he is going to do Anakin. Question is Reva or fifth brother? Reva has a little bit better expertise, but fifth brother has protection. What he did was he hunkered and then jumped, and he's just going to go after Grand Inquisitor. Go for the bonus score that way, feeling like Grand Inquisitor is the easiest to kill. And he used coordinated fire damage. I mean, honestly, this is kind of what he needs. It also sets him up better potentially for Struggle 2. Is in a weird way, it made Donovan's play of going towards the middle significantly worse. If you think about wanting to force Anakin to go after like fifth brother instead of your primary, and have him potentially be set up worse for Struggle 2. So it looks like he does get the kill on a single attack, which is huge. He's in a flip stance to be on the defensive side. Yeah, that's setting him up to be in a really advantageous position. It's crazy. I was like, if you just watch the first part of this game, you're like, oh, this is just going to be a landslide for Empire, right? Now you look at it and you're like, wait a second, is this going to be a landslide for Republic? Sometimes it is crazy how much a game of Shatterpoint can turn on a dime. And to a certain extent, this maybe could have been totally avoided by slightly different deployment on Donovan's part. Because if fifth brother had been movable by the sergeant to set up an earlier score of score 4, then this whole thing could be, totally swung. All right, so the hard part about this is also like losing Struggle 1 on Sabotage is so bad. I know people like it because you think that you can make a comeback in Struggle 2 because Struggle 3 doesn't necessarily favor anyone. But if you lose, there's only a total of 7 objectives, right? And so now you're looking at a spot where Republic is controlling and like literally has not just controlling, but has alive bodies on 5 out of 7 points. Donovan has elected to not activate the Dark Troopers, wanting to save them for the next struggle, and is going to go ahead and activate Reva. But the question here is like, how does Reva take a point? She kind of has to get a kill. So she's rolling Vader dice into the commandos that currently have no damage on them. Solid roll. So she needs 8 damage to wound because of protection. Hey, at least she got it. think it's 2 conditions, so we're probably going to see the removal of Hunker. Reva coming in clutch here. Her with Vader dice and her own internal rerolls is quite strong. She also gets a heal back 1 because of Grand Inquisitor. So here we just have Fixer dropping the Hunker token, which removes the... I believe he had Disarm on him. He's electing to remove the Disarm and dash. All right, so now here's Obi. Obi just needs to take a point from Donovan to win the struggle or get a wound. Sergeant has 6 health left. So he could certainly just go after the Sergeant and then is in a really good spot for potentially the next struggle. I don't know if Obi... I mean, there's nobody on that back point. I believe Obi has jumps on his tree. So if he could shove, jump, and maybe get himself some movement towards that back objective, he could be locked in for struggle 2. So he's going to do coordinated fire damage. So he jumped to get extra dice. 2 expertise for the Sergeant, I think, is 1 block. But there's also a lot of fails in the attack roll. So still going to go 5 down. So now it's going to be 7 damage, disarm. Oh, now I want to look at this tree, and I need to double check and be like, could he have potentially gone after that back point? That would have been super interesting. Let's see. There is a jump on 5, which I believe he hit. So... yeah, it would be a single shove. But Rex is alive on the point. Oh man, yeah, I think that would have been a really cool play there, where I would have almost been sure that he wins struggle 2. 1 shove plus a jump, and then he still has his move action. Yeah, that would have been so that would have been so devastating. Because he would potentially get the kill, and then he would start off scoring so many of the next turn objectives. I mean, he's still in a really good spot, but I think there's a potential there to be in even more of a dominating spot. Okay. Ryan definitely wins the struggle. Flips. This is not great for Donovan. So I think he almost certainly has to take the one that Reva is on, which has Anakin in the middle with a Hunker token, and then there is Commandos in the back, which have 2 Hunker tokens. So, plus side here is Obi going after that other point probably didn't matter, because with this flip, it probably would only... yeah, I mean, maybe Obi over there is solid. Yeah, it probably... yeah, that other play would have, no real impact, so... it's a cool idea on my part. In execution, I'm not sure it would have mattered, even if it was cool. All right, so yes, he is choosing the one that Reva is starting on. He knows he has to activate Dark Troopers. So the question here is like, Dark Troopers need to take a point. Expertise is the middle. So at least they can gang up on. Problem is he has one force and they've been wounded. So that's actually quite tough for them, I think, to potentially both get up there. They believe they have a jump on their tree, but like the OB list is not an easy list to shoot and just like guarantee those multiple steps. I think it's 3 down for a jump. Yeah. I think there's certainly some lamenting from Donovan here, feeling like he does not have a great play. He could definitely like potentially go for damage. Yeah, there could be a world where at least like maybe the play. Yeah, you could potentially go for Dark Trooper getting up onto the point, like climbing up, Vader dice into Anakin, and then see if he's willing to drop his hunkers to move, because you might be able to shove. Well, and you've got Grand Inquisitor bracing him, which is rough. Yeah. In execution, I think that moving Grand Inquisitor to the middle was actively probably the largest mistake so far, maybe outside of it's hard for me to call the deployment thing a mistake. That is so minor. And I think it would be really hard to have thought all of those things through at the beginning of the game. But here, I think sending the Grand Inquisitor to the middle, giving Anakin the easier target that would also allow him to have a hunker token and be on the middle is putting Donovan in a particularly rough spot. Where normally I advocate for like what you do to set up for the next struggle when you know you're losing it. But that play kind of backfired indirectly. And I understand why he's taking a bit on this decision. This is not easy. Like this, I mean, there's a world here where potentially consider just rolling damage dice and see if that can spiral into something. Because it's also just going to be like, if you're constantly in a position where everything is full health and hunkered, you're just going to be in a bad spot. So he is climbing the Dark Trooper there. So we do have one Dark Trooper engaged with Anakin. So where is the other one going to go? It could potentially aim to reinforce the point with Reva, would not be bad. Going after... Oh, I like that. Okay. Advance, hit that ingress point down there, and gets to engage the clone commando. Yeah, that's solid. I'm on board for this. It is just electing to hunker. I'm not sure I like that. I don't think he's winning the passive game here. He's potentially maybe slowing down scoring a little bit. I don't know. My gut here is that you take both those attacks, maybe even taking them both with Vader dice, and just getting as much damage through so you have better big swing potential as the game goes on. All right, so they are both full force again. Rex is the first flip. Reva is the important objective. So here, I think Rex almost certainly scores 3. I think Rex can probably shove Reva off the point, and it looks like can get the other commando up to take that back point as well. So this definitely seems like a solid activation for Ryan. Interesting. He's electing to move Rex with his initial ability. Oh, I see what he's thinking. Because no, Fixer's wounded, so he's not taking that point without shoving her off. Yeah, I feel like I'd like to have. I feel like that commando near the bottom could have been dashed to that ingress point, and he's at full force at the moment. I think he can spare the force to move Rex. But let's see how the rest of the turn plays out. There might be something I'm not seeing. He was checking to see if he has any coordinated fires that matter. Looks like they are out of range. If we go back to one of the earlier things we were talking about in the beginning of the video, the play of not having Rex on the top level has made it so now this entire game, Vader hasn't really been relevant for scoring. And so that's such a subtle positioning thing that really has helped out Ryan over the course of the game. So it looks like 4 blocks for Reva. Was that just 1 down? Or was it 2 down? Must have been, yeah, it must have been 2 down because it got 2 shoves and 2 damage. Yeah, I think I would have been totally fine there. Spending an extra force and scoring 3. I'm sure that was probably something that Ryan just overlooked in the moment, as opposed to like actively decided not to do it. Also, those commandos with 300 tokens would have been so annoying. All right, looks like he pulled. Revealed Reva. Move Fifth Brother up, which does give him the tiebreaker there. I think that was an advance and jump for Reva. So here we've got Donovan debating kind of. So there's already 3 damage on Reva, but if he doesn't shove Rex off the point, then he gets into a really bad spot. So he is electing to take the Vader dice. Looks like 3 blocks. We've got a lot of expertise over there for Donovan. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 expertise. Jesus. Oh God, 8. Oh yeah, like 7 expertise. Because Because Rex is steadfast with the hunker token, she needed to go 3 down. And so he needed to get at least one kind of crit on the dice. And so does not get it. So Rex took some damage, but is electing to drop the hunker tokens for some healing. Now Ryan is just deliberating if Rex needs to dash anywhere. That is a very tough spot, because that means that Donovan only scores 1 because of the fifth brother movement. It's middle. Shatterpoint. I would be very surprised if Ryan does not end this turn scoring 4. Anakin could potentially score 5 because he's Anakin. No, Vader's got 1 on him. He's probably not going after Vader. Might be considering the Anakin play anyway. He is going to go ahead and Shatterpoint Anakin. Anakin is electing to switch stances to Gem So, which is the wounding focused side. Coordinated fire damage onto the Dark Troopers. Great block for the Dark Troopers, 5 blocks. I'm not sure it's going to matter. Yeah, so with the coordinated fire damage, that takes them from 7 to 6, and then Anakin does 7 damage on 3 down. So he does perfectly get the wound there. There's something we talked about in the video kind of discussing this particular Anakin and Obi list, is coordinated fire strain or coordinated fire damage really helps Anakin hit key breakpoints. And so you see it right there in action. He then gets to one-shot the Dark Troopers, which is going to facilitate him immediately scoring 4. So he's going to just go ahead and do a hunker action, which, because General Obi is on the table, he is allowed to have the hunker token despite being engaged by the now wounded Dark Trooper. So that was a score 4. So that puts Obi in a really strong position. Not Obi. I just called Ryan Obi. I think he'll take that as a compliment. All right. Fail, which is the back point with the Rebel Commando. And there is a fifth brother. I mean, this is at least an activation that can score points. So he walks down, does not quite get in range of the ingress point. Is going to elect to jump. Here, there's a question of, he's just electing to be up there and take the point. Not going to make an attack. See, this is where I think, going back, I would have really liked to see the Dark Troopers make attacks with the Vader dice. I think, because if you had softened up the the Republic commandos there, Fifth Brother could have gotten a wound at this point. And you just feel better about that overall positioning. But it was a score 2 for Donovan. It is now Rebel Commandos. Rebel commandos are both going to have a hard time killing Fifth Brother and also going to have a hard time shoving him, considering they do not have any shoves. Here he's checking dash plus range 5. I'm trying to remember who he would be measuring to down there. I'm not sure what the range 5 is checking to. But spend the force for a defensive maneuver. Oh, probably just checking to have both of them take shots at Reva, since she has 4 health left. Which definitely feels reasonable. She is fairly defensive. Looks like Reva's blocking 4. So it'll be 2 damage and a pin, because Ryan's going to go 2 down. So he needs 1 down now to kill. He's going to spend 1 to add fixer dice to try to make sure that he gets this. And he's going to have 3 crits, so he's going to get the wound. Uh, 5 damage, pin, strain. They didn't super check the movement because that guy had just moved down, so we knew he could move right back into the same spot. Fifth Brother's kind of taking up enough space. Yeah. So here we're going to be resolving something where the commando is going to back up to the ladder. And so the correct way to resolve this, as far as I'm aware, is you move the model to where it's going to be near the ladder. And then we're using another base just to check and see if he would fit, which he does not. So he cannot go up the ladder. So he would remain where he's at the bottom of the ladder. I believe we talked about this in the moment, but he had plenty of movement, so he should have moved the Rebel Commando closer to the terrain structure so that another movement, like a Rex movement or something, could have allowed him to scale to the other side of Fifth Brother, which right now he's probably not dash distance from getting past Fifth Brother. So just like a very, very small positioning error. If the commando had been able to take that point, that would have just ended the game. But he kind of had to go pretty much as far forward as he could to get that shot. All right, the Dark Troopers have been wounded twice, so he does not want to activate them. He reserves them. He pulls Grand Inquisitor. I think here he was almost certainly hoping for a Vader or Shatterpoint, because he needs to get some characters not contesting. I'd be very worried to hear that GI does not have a great play. The question here is like, how does GI net you a point? And unfortunately, the double score is the middle, so you would have to be killing Anakin. So again, we're coming back to the earlier discussion. I would have really liked the Dark Troopers to make Vader dice attacks on the Rebel Commandos and on Anakin. When if that had happened and Anakin was softened up and had 3 or 4 damage on him, then suddenly this turns on the Grand Inquisitor play right now and would be in a position to better take that point. Yeah. So here we're realizing it's gonna be hard for a Grand Inquisitor to take a point. He's got to activate him at this point. I think he could he can at least probably kill Rex. But it's just frustrating that that's not one of the double scoring objectives at the moment. So I'm curious if Donovan has a better plan than something that I'm seeing. I think I recall us all discussing this in the moment, and maybe the play is to try to shove Anakin off and block the ingress point. So he does have 2 down for a reposition. And maybe maybe just make the attack. Yeah, so he's focusing, no Vader dice. 3 blocks, crit to hit, so basically 3 blocks. So it looks like he's going to go 4 down. So 5 damage, 2 shoves, reposition. So it does look like he has the shove angle, so the first shove gets Anakin off the point. I always find it interesting, like what different people's strategies are for blocking the ingress point, where Donovan probably has the block there, but I think I would have erred more towards taking up space and not being as close to the tower part, which probably helps with shove angles against him later on. I think Donovan has pretty nice positioning there. I think I probably would have erred towards going onto the gantry a little bit more. So it was a score of 3, which gives a momentum to Donovan. The next card that comes up is Fixer, which you're at least going to be able to take the middle point. Let's see, Reva's wounded at the moment. So this is where if Ryan had taken the commando movement differently, rather than going max distance from the ladder and moved more towards that terrain piece, Fixer could have now dashed the commando on to take that point and would have won the game right now. He could have climbed up and then probably hunkered onto the objective and had dashed that commando utilizing scale, just moves up on the other side of Fifth Brother. So he's going to use it on himself. He is going to heal 1 off of Rex and dash. And then he's going to climb up. All right, so he climbs up and then is going to do a melee attack into the Grand Inquisitor with a coordinated fire damage, because somehow the commandos have not been wounded. I don't even think they've been attacked. Fair amount of crits, but also playback. This is a shout out to how good the play was with the commandos initially, electing to not try to go take a point with them. And so you're not just hand delivering them to Vader. Now they've been alive the whole game and handing out a lot of coordinated fire damage and have scored a lot of points. And so if you saw that initial play at the beginning and were like, I don't like it, I want to go take a point, you're seeing in the long run how much that decision has helped Ryan over the course of the game. So Looks like 3 damage and a shove. Which allows him, he's 1 away from winning now. Fail is the back point, which Donovan is controlling. He pulls Shatterpoint. I think he's probably happy about that. I think whenever you're playing a Vader list, you're like, is Vader the play here? They're checking Anakin, Obi, Arfs are the remaining cards in the deck for Ryan. So potentially the question is like, which point do you go after? There's a world here where Rex is a safer target. Neither of them are going to be coming up in the future, like in the near future. So it's also a question of like, who can go after which points? So let's see. So Vader is, I think there he's spending the Force to move to an ingress point, and then maybe plans to climb and then attack Rex. Let's see if I'm following accurately. Just, I think there's some deliberation on plans going on. Yeah, I'm not sure who I prefer necessarily. I think taking either of these points are certainly significant. Looks like okay, so he's choosing to advance now, go up, and so he had just used his normal advance, then he spent a Force for the Vader advance. I think there would have been an interesting play of going after Rex, because I suppose Rex doesn't have a hunker token on. An interesting thing is with Vader, Reva, Rex all kind of standing in that circle, it could actually be really awkward for Ryan to get anyone onto that point, which I'm not sure if it was thought about in the moment. But I agree, Fixer's probably the juicier target just to like take the tiebreaker off the table. Ends up being 4 blocks. I think Vader's still going to go 5 down. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be a wounded Fixer who will leave the table eventually if the game continues. Doesn't have a great shove angle. All right, so looks like he does get the shove angle. All right, so wounded. Let's see if they've collected the momentum yet. So that is going to be a score of 3 for Donovan. Vader's just doing a small follow-up to bump into the terrain. But it's still going to mean that a score 4 would win things for Ryan. And it feels like the chances of Anakin getting that would be high. So that's exactly what they're talking about now. A score of 4 would definitely take things. I suspect that the plan here is to reserve Arfs, which he does. pulls Anakin. And so here, if Anakin can take the... Well, I think if Anakin kills Vader or... Oh, he started off controlling the key objective. So really, Anakin just needs to wound... Yeah, so if he wounds a secondary, what they're discussing with the Republic commandos, I apologize, I should stop doing that. He can move one Rebel commando out of the position right next to Fifth Brother to open up the spot for the other one to climb to. Or scale to, essentially. So... yeah, so his thought process here is if he goes after Grand Inquisitor, who has 3 damage on him, Vader, who only has 1 damage on him, it's easier with a coordinated fire damage. I think he has to go 2 down to kill Grand Inquisitor. Yeah, I think he's jumping down and now deliberating whether he wants to focus. In my gut, this is the game-winning play here. I think I would focus. Coordinated fire damage. Four fails for Grand Inquisitor, plus 2 blocks and an expertise. So it looks like 5 hits, 2 crits. He's going to block 2 and make a crit into a hit, so that'll be 4 down. So I believe that's going to close out the game there. So he gains a momentum. He gets to jump himself up onto the middle, which isn't going to affect the scoring over there, but he gets to then dash the supports, which is the important part. So one clears the spot for the other. Then he gets a bonus score from Anakin killing a primary, and then scores 3, and that will wrap the game. So overall, for a game that started off looking like it was heavily in Donovan's favor, then ended in a 2-0 sweep for Ryan, that's how quickly, a Shatterpoint game can turn on its head. And overall, what, seemed like a, kind of just like all out, all in favor of Ryan, there were very, very subtle plays in this game that kind of turned things. And I think highlighting all of those, right, like the commandos not moving onto a midline point right away, proved over the course of the game, very much in favor for Ryan. But also, he could have won sooner with a little better positioning from the Republic commandos. I'd have to ask Donovan and see how he felt about it, but my gut is on this watch, I would have really liked to see Fifth Brother and the Dark Troopers make those attacks probably with Vader dice, soften some things up to just change the dynamics. I feel like that came back to bite him. And then obviously there was like that very, very small potential, deployment mistake that I feel like was holding him back. But overall, a really interesting matchup. I enjoyed watching this game. I think it's cool. Something that I probably saw a lot, like 2 years ago, is not something we've seen that much these days. But I know there's a lot of Inquisitors fans out there, so I'm sorry this was not an Inquisitors win for you, which it seemed like it very easily could have been. But overall, love the matchup. Really appreciate the guys letting me record them. So shout out to both Ryan and Donovan. And we'll just close things out there and say the most OP thing that you can do is continue to test lists, test different ideas, go back, revisit old characters. You never know what you're going to come up with. Later, nerds.